The old mansion loomed on the hill, dark and silent. It had stood there for centuries, a monument to forgotten sins. Locals whispered of a curse, a darkness that clung to the rotting wood and shattered windows. No one dared to go near. One man, though, was drawn to the shadows. His name was Thomas, an antique dealer with a hunger for the unique. He dismissed the stories as superstition. He parked his car at the foot of the drive, gravel crunching under the tires. A shiver ran down his spine as he approached the house. The scent of decay hung heavy. He pushed open the creaking door. Dust swirled in the faint rays of sunlight that pierced the gloom. He stepped inside, the floorboards groaning beneath his weight. A single portrait stared down from above the fireplace, eyes following his every move. This house held secrets, and he was determined to uncover them. He found it on the third floor, in a room at the end of a long, dark hallway. The door was locked, but the old wood splintered easily under his crowbar. A single window cast a pale light on the object in the centre of the room. It was a dollhouse, a perfect replica of the mansion itself. Each tiny window, each brick, each piece of furniture was an exact copy. He knelt before it, mesmerized. The craftsmanship was exquisite. He ran a finger along the cold porcelain face of a doll, peering from a window. Her eyes seemed to follow him. He shook his head, attributing it to the play of light and shadow. Still, he felt a chill. The details were too perfect. He could have sworn he saw a tiny cobweb in the corner of one miniature room. The longer he stared, the more the dollhouse seemed to pulse with a life of its own. It was a mirror, reflecting something dark and unknown. He had stumbled upon something ancient and evil. Days turned into weeks as Thomas became consumed by the dollhouse. He moved it to his workshop, unable to resist its pull. He noticed strange occurrences, subtle at first. He would swear he heard the faint echo of footsteps in his workshop. Sometimes he would catch a flicker of movement out of the corner of his eye. One night he awoke to a cold draught and a child's laughter. He got out of bed, heart pounding, and made his way to the workshop. The tiny rocking chair was moving, swaying back and forth, as if pushed by an unseen hand. The dollhouse was not just mimicking the mansion, it was connected to it. His nightmares began soon after. Vivid, terrifying dreams of being trapped inside the dollhouse. He would wake up in a cold sweat, the feeling of tiny hands clutching at him lingering. His fascination with the dollhouse morphed into an obsession, then into fear. He tried to ignore it, to convince himself it was just stress. But the incidents continued to escalate. One evening he heard a crash from the living room. He rushed out to find a lamp overturned. Then there were the whispers, soft, unintelligible murmurs from the dollhouse. His reflection in the miniature windows began to change. His eyes seemed hollower, his skin paler. One night he saw a figure in one of the miniature windows, a shadowy silhouette looking directly at him. He recoiled, knocking the dollhouse to the floor. Silence. The figure was gone. He couldn't shake the feeling that he was no longer alone. Something had crossed over from the dollhouse into his world. Panic set in. He tried to get rid of the dollhouse, to destroy it. He took it outside, doused it in gasoline, and tossed a lit match. The flames roared, consuming the dollhouse. He watched it burn, a sense of relief washing over him. But the next morning, the dollhouse was back in his workshop, untouched by the flames. He had awakened something ancient and evil, and now it would never let him go. He tried to leave the house, but something held him back. An invisible force, like an iron grip on his soul. He was trapped, just like the figures in the dollhouse. He began to see things, shadowy figures lurking in the corners of his vision. He woke up inside the dollhouse. His body was small, shrunken, trapped within the confines of the miniature mansion. He screamed, but no sound came out. He was a prisoner in his own personal hell, a living toy at the mercy of a force he couldn't comprehend. He caught a glimpse of a figure standing outside the dollhouse, peering in at him with a cold, amused smile. It was himself, or rather, what was left of him. His eyes were empty, his face twisted in a grotesque mockery of a smile. He was lost, his soul consumed by the evil that resided within the dollhouse. The mansion on the hill had claimed another victim. Some curiosities come with a terrible price.